that are looking at it, and we analyze our own data to figure out, like we're analyzing our own data to go, well, what was topically important today, or what were people, driving toward, or were there questions that we got that were similar or the same throughout the day, and were they all answered the same way? Was that satisfactory? Was that not satisfactory? Could we do it better? So we're looking at those things for those purposes.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Ted, thank you for joining us today. Super excited to have you on the show. You are the founder of ActivEngage. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Wonderful. Before we get into your current company, can you just take us back, introduce yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your history so we kind of know, where you get your start from?
Yeah, sure. I'm the executive chairman of ActivEngage. I've had about close to 3 decades in the automotive industry. I started washing cars basically for car dealerships a long time ago. And then I got to manage the people who were washing cars, and I pretty much moved through every department that you can have in a dealership on the service side and on the sales side. I worked for some of the big companies in the automotive industry like Automation and Jam Family, and did some consulting for some of the big OEMs and such. And then I basically went off and started another company prior to this one, and sold that back in 2006. And this company was started in 2007, and we've been around for about 14 years. And we've essentially defined a space that didn't really exist in the industry prior to our company. And that's it.
Very exciting stuff. So tell us a little about what does ActivEngage do? So you created this line of business. It didn't exist before ActivEngage did, or it was in the dealership?
Yeah, that's right. No, it didn't exist actually. It's not that there wasn't any existence of the kind of concept that we are. Essentially, we make software for dealerships and for automotive entities that was originally just chat, and now it's all different types of messaging, texting and social media, and even calls and other things like that in certain types of situations. And it's also our personnel in most instances that the consumer is talking to. So we're specific to who we represent. Whether you're on a dealership website or one of the OEM websites, we're actually the chat messaging that you're using when you're on AutoTrader.
Okay.
So so if you're talking to a specific dealership or any of those entities, then it depends on each entity. But by and large, you're talking to our people, and they're much more adept. It's actually a better thing because they're much more adept at having these conversations. We have literally millions of conversations, and there's constant training and evolution of how these conversations should be handled. And because we handle so many, we know how to kind of help customers fight through the area. The whole thing is to help the customer, right? It's for companies who want to give the customer access to assistance, where an advocate for the customer to be able to help get through the process of making a service appointment, buying the car, learning more about the dealership or the vehicle or the brand or whatever it may be.
Right.
And so, we've evolved over, the entire length of the company to be able to understand how to talk to customers, understand what kind of language to use when you're interacting with the customers. Do you use emojis? Do you use like half words and other things like that? And what do they like and what they don't like? And how to drill down and really simplify the process and be there to actually help them, not just to take information, but to truly make them feel like they're heard and that there's empathy for what they're doing. Because how can you not be empathetic, for someone who's making one of the most expensive purchases that they're going to make, and they always feel like they're on opposite sides of that purchasing process, and they're really not. But helping them understand what's going to happen gives you a little bit of calm, and so that's what we're there to do.
Auto Trader obviously is a big national company, right? Do you also support like your local dealerships, car dealers?
Yeah, absolutely. We have about we supply some type of service, messaging service for about 15,000 dealers of the new car dealers, and then used car dealers as well. And we have dealers who sign up with us directly. There are certification programs that are in the automotive industry where certain types of products like ours can be approved, and so we're the only one that's unilaterally certified if there is a certification program for that brand. We also do some of the OEMs, and some we just supply software to. Some of the big, like the manufacturers, they'll buy the software from us, and then they'll have their own people, actually interacting and chatting with the customers or texting with the customers through our software.
Okay, I love what you're doing. So, and let me just kind of break down how I see some of the economics of what you're doing, because I do the same thing for managed service providers, kind of. So you make the software that's a live chat piece for the car dealerships or large dealerships. Doesn't really matter if they're selling cars. You can be their chat support department, and
that's right.
You're to think about, and do you run this 24/7?
We run it 24/7. Yeah, we're open every day.
Right. So for a smaller dealership, having a 24-hour support team on your website, hiring those people on the low side is going to cost you, if you want them English speaking, you want them to be able to know something and have some knowledge and be able to talk, you're talking on the low side, $15,000 a month to have a 24-hour staff that's going to answer. And that's very, very low side. That's one person. If he's sick or on vacation, you're missing the ball, right? Just running a 24-hour staff, 15 to 20 grand, easy. And I'm assuming your price is way less than that for a single dealership.
Yeah, we're phenomenally less than that. It's if you're doing the math, then if you're one person, they're even if they're close to minimum wage, which I don't think they want to employ that kind of person to be talking to the end customer. Right. I don't know that it's going to end up quite at that big of a number, but I think that those teams, if you have teams, figure, if you're paying someone and you're paying them whatever you are, $15 an hour.
Have a team 24/7. It needs minimum 5 people.
That's right. Because you also have to they can't work more than 40 hours. And, you got to be able to have multiple shifts. And then they can only handle so many at a time. So you're going to have times of the day where there's density. And you can't just go, I'm not going to talk to you now. You have to be able to pick up. And there are some statistics and things, you have to be able to respond within a minimal amount of time, and which is seconds, it's not minutes. And if you don't, then customers will disengage and they'll just go to somebody else. They'll feel like you don't care, so it's important to have a good response time and be able to do those. It's a little different, if you're on texting, there's a little bit more time and stuff like that, but it's not that different, So to be able to cover that, like you said, you need at least 5 people, to cover a 7-day period.
It's not cheap.
Basically running their schedules all the way out, so it's expensive. Plus you got to buy the software that we're making anyway. You're going to have to get it from somewhere. So
absolutely. So now you do a lot of chat support, online chat support. So end users on the website, they're chatting with you. I'm deep in the tech world. I love technology. And I'm not a huge fan of some of the stuff that I'm seeing right now with artificial intelligence, or what they're calling artificial intelligence, and on the online chat stuff. And I get your opinion on how important is it to have a real human being sitting on the other side of that chat, answering questions, talking to somebody in a real way, versus, how far can you get with these chatbots?
Not too far. The chatbots are not really that successful. We try them out all the time, and we have some things that we utilize. All of our stuff is kind of internally facing, so we don't have it face the customer. They're more like on your iPhone, how you get like, do you want to respond with one of these things? Or, is this what I understand is going on? So our people have a choice, but listen, I've had this conversation a number of times, and not that they don't exist. The chatbots are out there, but usually customers have fairly specific questions, and they don't want to feel like, they're talking to a bot. They especially don't want to talk to a bot if they aren't told that they are. So, a lot of people will deploy a bot, and you don't know it's a bot until you start chatting. And then all of a sudden you realize it, and that pisses them off. That's definitely not what they want. Even if
I'm not a fan.
Yeah. I don't love it. I think that, if it's just about data acquisition and the customer is good for that and they know that that's happening, then it's not too bad. But you're not building a relationship with that customer. There's no empathy for what they're trying to accomplish. The computers and the AI, as good as they may be, they don't really understand what's happening. They're assimilating the information and taking the best of the choices they have. And it takes a very long time. Look, Google put out their bot a few years ago for the second time, and all it was doing was making appointments, for restaurants and for hair salons, and they pulled it back. And I don't know anybody who's putting more resources into AI than Google is, and and they don't have it out there. So when people try to put it out there, I get that it's assistance, for the user so you can get through more. But I think that people prefer, I know, statistically, we can see that people absolutely prefer, live communication with a real person that can, interact with them at a level where they feel like they're getting help, that they're not just having some sort of automated glossary of information that is now made available to them. It's a different thing. And I think there are uses for the AI, but AI wasn't really designed for that purpose. That's really the key to me. AI was designed to be able to assist with reporting and finding anomalies and other things. And now they've said, oh, well, we can use it for this. Yeah, that's not really the best case use for it now. It will get there, by the way. I have no doubt that it's going to get there. But we make these kind of things, and we've tried a lot of stuff, and we obviously know that we have to go in that direction. And I don't like to talk to bots, so I'm not going to make.
And I think the alternative, and I hate the bots because I just think they're executed very, very, very poorly. I'm okay with the first question being, hey, what department do you want to talk to? Right? I'm okay with that. And I just think it's a poor excuse to not have a FAQ on your site, right? If you have a good frequently asked questions page, then I can search for my own data. But if I want to talk to somebody, it's because I've already looked at the FAQ and I've already done my research. And I'm like, man, I need real human help here, because there's something that I'm not understanding. And if I don't understand how to ask the question to an AI, it's not going to know how to give me the right answer. So
no, you're absolutely right. I mean, look, a perfect example, even beyond that may simplify it for others who aren't thinking that way, is, when you get on the phone and you call, I'm not going to name a company because I don't want to offend anybody, but when you get on the phone and call a big company and you have to kind of just fight through the phone tree to get to where you're going. Okay, well, how enjoyable is that? That's not really any different than what you're describing if you're going to have to say things and then the computer doesn't really understand it and say them again. You're just typing it instead of verbally saying it out loud, and it's still giving you the same kind of responses until you get to a point where it goes, you know what, I don't understand what you want. Let me put you to somebody else. And when someone's spending an average of $34,000 on a vehicle, and it's traumatic, and they want to make sure that they're doing the right thing, the computer can't go, oh no, I like this car, this is a good car, or you know what, you should get the leather, or don't worry about the the upfront display, or whatever. You're not getting that out of AI.
The nuance is lost completely with AI, at least at this point in the world. Maybe later, the AI is going to know you better and be able to talk to you in your style. But I think I promise you, it's absolutely on its way to get there. There's no doubt that it's continually evolving. We're having these millions of conversations, and we're feeding them into services, that are looking at it. And we analyze our own data to figure out, we're analyzing our own data to go,
well, what was topically important today, or what were people, driving toward, or were there questions that we got that were similar or the same throughout the day, and were they all answered the same way? Was that satisfactory? Was that not satisfactory? Could we do it better? So we're looking at those things for those purposes, but all of that, will feed into an AI system as well that eminently will see that it's producing similar responses to what we're actually producing, and then we'll utilize those pieces.
Right.
And it moves at a very, very fast rate, and all that's true. But it's like teaching a dog to talk. It's not even like teaching a baby to talk. It's going to take a long time, but it
Right.
will make it there, and it'll have a geometric progression as you start feeding it. It also has to be specific to what you're doing, because a lot of the questions, like a question that's how much is it, can be utilized across a lot of different industries. But those responses are going to, not just the price point responses, but the way you respond is going to be phenomenally different. If you're talking about insurance or a car or canned soup or the dress that's at the store, they're just not the same answer. Not just not the same price point, but the answer is going to be different because there's more to the answer. One has just sales tax, one doesn't have tax, one, has all kinds of other things that are attached to it because they're state and local and other federal, regional things that are attached to it. Yeah, it's that kind of nuance that that the computers have to get used to. And you don't really want to practice on live customers because that's going to inhibit the sale, and it's going to inhibit the relationship with the customer and how they feel about you as a seller, and how they feel about making the purchase. That you want them to feel good. The last thing you want is to be a blockade or to, have them uncomfortable, because that just is a general feeling of why, I hate this, and you talk to a lot of people historically about buying cars, and they're like, I'd rather go to the dentist. And there's a lot of companies that are trying to, right. There's a lot of companies that are trying to, really find better ways to do these things, and not just one way, lots of ways. And they're even incorporating a multitude of different ways to do things so that they meet whatever the customer need is. They can do it online, they can do it in person, they can do it, we work with some big companies. We work with AutoNation, Penske, other big companies, big dealer groups, and things like that. And they're conscious of what's going on, and they're trying to enhance their process in a significant way. There are a lot of what we call digital retailing processes that are out there that dealers are incorporating into what they're doing. To give the customer a little more control over what their car buying process, so they don't have to do everything in the store. And I think that all that's moving forward and being adopted at a fairly high rate, and I think it's good for consumers. I think it's great, also for the dealers and stuff like that. It's more putting everybody on the same side of things instead of on opposing sides, which is how it felt, even though it wasn't necessarily that way. I don't think that dealers want to be on the opposite side or, of you buying a car. They want to help you with it, but there's a lot of pieces. When you're buying a car, you're not just buying the car, you're buying the car, you're buying the financing, you're buying the insurance, you're buying the warranties, it's a lot of things to get.
And sometimes you're buying a lifestyle, right? If you're buying like a Jeep or something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, wonderful. So, Ted, I'm super.
It's very.
Yeah.
So.
Cut off for a second there.
Okay.
You're frozen.
Oh, really?
All right. We're good. We're back to normal. So I'm super curious on the timing here, like the chicken and the egg scenario. You have a software piece, and you've taken advantage of the economies of scale of having a 24-hour chat service for all of these smaller places, so they can, it's a great economic decision specifically for a small dealership. To me, that's a home run sale. Very, very simple to do. But you have the software piece and the service part. Which one came first? And I have in my head kind of how that progressed, but I don't want to mess it up. So I'm curious to see how that happened.
So which one came first? ideologically, the managed service came first.
Okay.
So obviously we have to have the software. So it's a little hard to, to say that the managed service came first, but we actually released our product as a managed service before. It was another year and a half before we said, hey, we could release the software to others. Let's do that.
Okay.
We actually, spent a lot of time. I have this very bizarre background and as an entrepreneur and just working for other companies and doing other things. And so one of the things that was identified was that I'd spent, and others in the company, we had spent time not just working in dealerships, but consulting during the period of commerce becoming more utilized in the stores. Email and things like that were becoming heavily utilized in the stores. I worked for AutoNation, and I was the national director of eCommerce and field operations. And I was, kind of a part of this phenomenal team that realized, even before I got there, realized that, hey, we can start using technology. We can use the internet. We can facilitate things for customers. We can give them ways to have conduits into the dealership and get more information, through this data service. And so, we evolved all of that. And, I was there when we crossed $1 billion in sales, utilizing internet leads for AutoNation, which was, that really kind of put a stake in the ground. It was like, this is not going anywhere. This is going to be something that people are going to do.
Right.
And, that's when it really became very widely adopted by a lot of the other dealerships, and things like that. So what we saw, my team and I, what we saw as we were kind of coming into the industry was that it was hard for dealerships to have, oversight over the personnel when they were doing everything. And one of the most difficult things was on the phone. You have to remember how phones worked before and what was legal and wasn't legal. And, there wasn't data like there is now today.
Right.
I was watching an interview with Chappelle the other day, and he goes, how I used to find out who was on the phone? You had to pick it up. So, there wasn't a lot of information, and so people were handling calls. They were potentially putting some liability on the dealerships for the way that they were handling calls and things like that. And the training, a lot of dealerships put a lot of focus on it. A lot of dealerships didn't, and they were like, well, just get the customers in. And so I think that as a result of a lot of my interactions, both at the dealers and with AutoNation and some others, that we realized, look, to do this the right way, you need ongoing training for your salespeople, and you want to monitor what they're doing, and you want to be able to give them constant, feedback that this is working, this is not working, you handle this the right way, the wrong way, and make sure that they follow it. And so I was involved, and so were some others, in consulting with dealerships about how to do that, but not so much with the phones, but with emails and with other types of communication that were available at that time. So when we started the company, we said, we can release the software and try to teach these guys how to do it, but the dealers are going to have the same problem that you described earlier. You don't just need a team of people, but you need oversight for that team. And then you need constant training for that team. And that's how you get to the $15,000, $20,000 a month, is because there's all this other effort just on top of the personnel. And so rather than doing that, we could essentially give a dealer like a share of a team, of a much bigger team, where the focus was, well, we're going to train these people constantly, and we're going to have a lot of dealerships that are, of similar brands. So the brand, the product content and everything, that's all going to be the same. What's going to be different is the pieces of that dealership, right? The things that are specific to them, right, that they offer. They include service, with everything, or you can purchase certain things there, or you get certain benefits from going to that dealership as compared to another. Those are the things that are different, but will be consistent in the way that we're handling all of your customers. And we're always going to use the best practice, because we're going to learn at a very fast rate, because we're handling lots and lots of volume. And right, therefore, we're really going to be able to interpret that in a much more effective way than just limiting it to only your area. And we'll be able to give that feedback, and you'll get the best of everything that we can provide. So I think that the idea was, there's an economy of scale to do it this way for the dealer, and there's a faster path to best process, best communication process for the dealer. And we already had this experience where we kind of were helping to guide what those conversations were going to look like, not the immediate conversations of what chat and text were, but that was an area where people didn't know what they were going to do with it. It hadn't really become a very big thing yet. Chat itself existed, so I don't want to imply that we, did that, but you never saw it at a dealership. It just wasn't a conduit at that time. And so it was great to be able to go to dealers and say, we can create this conduit. It's kind of similar to a phone call. So it gives customers immediate satisfaction, which is going to increase their relationship with you because they feel like, oh, I can get answers right away. I can go here rather than wait a day or 2 days to get responded to on an email from somebody else. And I have it in writing. So it's not like making a phone call and I show up at the dealership and it's something different than what I was told. And if we're doing it the right way, then we're really enhancing the picture of what the dealership is to the customer, and we're getting the customer to feel more comfortable with the situation. So you're solving all kinds of problems, both for the dealer and for the customer, by doing it as a managed service. Absolutely, there were people in the beginning and still are where they want to do it, and there are advantages to doing it yourself. There are positively, certain specifics of a deal at that location or at that dealership that you want to handle in that way. Some things about negotiating, if you want to get into that with people online, then we're not going to do that. We're not going to negotiate differently with everybody who's out there. But, I remember very early, I think it's kind of a funny story. I remember, the other side of that is I remember at least, in the early days of this, us handling, and it wasn't that early. It was probably eight years ago, having a conversation with the dealer where the dealer, didn't like the conversation that we had, and sent over a message and how it was really not handled well, and he didn't like it. And so I got on the phone with the dealer and he said, you really didn't handle this well. This is, really not good. Let's go over. I did one myself. I want to show you what a good conversation looks like. And I said, okay, let's go over that. And he went through all the, features of the vehicle, and it was a very long conversation. And he gave this person not only the lease and the finance pricing, but he gave them the money factors and, showed him how to calculate the whole thing. And it was really in depth, and it was something we couldn't have done at that time. Right. And I said, yeah, this is something we can't do. This is a very in-depth chat. What was the customer's name? Never got the customer's phone number, email, name. Couldn't communicate with this guy again if he tried. He just didn't ask those questions. So there's a balance, you want to get input from the customer. You need their data to be able to continue the communication. You have to give them information as well. If you're not giving them information, they're just going to put up a wall and they're like, I don't need this. I can get the information from somebody else. So, and a lot of it, we did as we kind of evolved where we could do some of those things. We tried it, and that's not really what the customer is trying to accomplish at that stage, historically. So, they're mostly trying to find out what you have and what's available and what you can do for them. Why should I use you as a dealership? How would you compare if I saw this car somewhere else or something to that effect? And, tell me about this car versus another car. And, all those questions we can answer all the other ones too now, but we just aren't just, we don't want to just have, word throw up on people where it's just so much information that because you're
building a relationship at that stage, right? Somebody's gone to the website, they've seen a car that they might like, and they want to talk to somebody about that car.
That's exactly it. Well, they want to talk to someone about the car, and we want to be those people. So we don't want to just hand it off at that point. We want to make sure we're giving a robust conversation.
Right.
And we want it to end where they end. So now with these digital retailing tools, and we're interactive with them, things like Roadster and Darwin and Cox Accelerate and all, there's a bunch of them that they can take the customer, all the way through the sale for the most part. And we can assist them with that process, and we even know where they are and what they're doing and how it's going. But not every customer wants that. Some customers just, what other colors does this come in? Or, I don't see that you have any of these, available. And a lot of times it's just their inability to search effectively, or they're not sure, they're uncomfortable navigating around on the web or on the website, or there's information that may be posted on the OEM site, but it's not posted on the dealer site. And, now they have more detailed questions about the vehicle that we can, supply. I mean, we've had questions like, how long is the vehicle? I got to see if it fits in my garage. Okay, well, that's not going to necessarily show up on a dealership site. We have it at our fingertips, and we can answer those questions really quickly.
Right.
And a lot of other questions like that probably even the salespeople in the store, that they don't know it off the top of their head. They're not quick to respond with those things, but we have it because of the way we build the software. Our agents are able to see all that stuff about what you're looking at and what you're doing, even before, you kind of engage with us. We know, this guy's looking at these kind of vehicles, and this is what's going to happen. So when he does engage, we want to be prepared for that.
Awesome. All righty. So you've been in business for a long time, rocked through a bunch of stuff, and you've got a decent amount of awards that you've won. I think Inc. 500, fastest growing companies, and some other ones. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of, getting on even in the radar for those awards? And, what kind of benefit does a company get from getting these types of awards?
Yeah, we've won some great awards. The Inc. 500 one, we actually got a special award because we were on it 5 times in a row. So there's another group that I think that, historically I know that there's less than 4,000 companies that are on that list, that have actually achieved that. There's we've won some other, we have a National Red Herring Award and some other big ones like that. Most of them you apply for, you just apply. The ones that you're just applying for, even if there's a nominal fee to apply, so they can assess it almost like a college application, then that's fine. They pick and they verify your information. I mean, it's not just, this is what I say it is. I mean, you're sending them financials and other things like that to be able to get them. I think any press that you can get, for the most part, is good press. It's that old adage, that it's always, generally pretty good. So it's nice to get the awards. It's nice to prop them up in front of people and to show that you've won them. And I think I think for early stage companies, especially, that, it gives some credibility if people aren't sure who you are or what you've accomplished. And they're real. I don't, there's awards, and we've done them. There's awards that, you pay to be a part of the group, and then they pick, 9 of the 10 in the group. And we have some of those awards too. And again, I think if the press is there behind it, if you're an entrepreneur, then you have to look at those things and understand, well, what's their constituency and who looks at these things, and what kind of viewer is it? Is it the contact that I'm looking for, or, is it, other random people that aren't really the people who are going to have any impact on our ability to sell to the customers that we want to sell to? But I think they're both some value. I'm a little, I don't like the ones that are kind of pay to play kind of ones. They don't feel great, but at the same time, they do sometimes have an impact. It depends on the industry that you're in and how visible they all are, and what they do to impact the broader visibility of their organization, as well as the people that you're trying to reach. But people, that, like the accounting ones and the Inc. 500 ones, and those are much more. They're much more gratifying. Yeah, they're more prestigious. I think for the most part, they're more gratifying, as a CEO or as an employee of the company who's getting the award. That's what you want to get, right? Those are the ones that you really want. If it's Anderson or one of those guys, those are super meaningful, and it makes you feel like you've achieved something. They're kind of recognizing you for that, and they look good to others as well, because everybody recognizes those names. So I think those goods, it's the industry ones that sometimes can be different. Not always, it depends. But
Right.
I think you need to mix it up and have some of both. But as you become a more mature company, it's not that you don't need the awards, but I think your focus starts to shift on, okay, people know who you are at this point and they know what you're doing for the most part. And can you get the awards? Yeah. I mean, at some point getting an award, it requires application. And is that where you want to focus your time? Now you want to focus on evolving the product and doing a better job and expanding your customer base. And those are different things than when you're young. So I think you tend to see a lot of these for companies that are, in the first 5 or 6, 7 years. And then, there's a lull, and then you kind of are in this massive expansion mode, beyond that, just focused on, okay, so I lasted this long. Now I have to really make things work because we're a big company and we got a lot of other things happening and I got to make sure I can pay for everything. And so you're trying to get to the next step. And then when you kind of hit the next plateau, you go, we did a lot of these things super well. Let's go back and see if we can get some of these awards again. And that's when you kind of start doing that again.
Yeah, I like them for a few different reasons. I really like the local, like the small business. St. Louis, we got the St. Louis Business Journal. Every city's got the Business Journal. Like the Business Journal awards are really good, especially for your local community. And where I see people kind of fail a lot is they get these awards and they don't publicize the heck out of them, right?
Right.
I mean, if you're going to get the award, like we get every year in St. Louis, we get, third largest data center every year. We've gotten it for the last 20 years. And, we get best in IT service from the St. Louis Business Journal. We get those two almost every single year. And that's a Facebook ad, TikTok ad, like all of those things.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Right? Absolutely.
It's, you spend the $80 for the plaque or whatever it is that you get whenever it is, so you can hang it and make content around that and really brag on yourself, because that's a great way to get more business. Right. And you've done the work, you earn the reward. And I see so many guys just hang it in their hallway or throw it on a shelf somewhere and not really capitalize on getting that award. And
no, I agree.
I'm not going to say it's a huge deal, but I think I see people not executing enough on them.
Yeah, look, I think, with any of these awards, I think that you're right. The local awards are really cool. The local awards, I find, like we've had best places to work and other things like that, also fastest growing. They have those for the state and for the city, which we've won a few of those. But, I think at least at our, we're personnel wise, we're a decent sized company. We're a pretty big company. It's a couple hundred people. And it's, the best places to work is a big deal, right? Because you're trying to hire locally the best that you can, or even if you're not,
really
you want
huge
people
deal
to see. Right. And so you want people to see that you treat your employees the right way and that they're satisfied there and that you have cool things and stuff like that. So as far as benefits and such. So, I mean, look, if you win an award, it should be everywhere. It really doesn't matter what it is. It should be almost everywhere, because there's power in exposing that you've achieved something. And I think that they're super valuable to be able to have that. Do I think that some awards, last longer or have more impact than others? Yeah, there's no doubt that that's true.
Right.
But I wouldn't, if you win an award for the way that the front of your building looks, then put it up. And let people know that if you had an impact on it, it's a bit.
Absolutely. In a world where the best marketers in the world are telling us more content, that's an easy way to get relevant content to promote your business, right? I mean, this entire show was put together to help businesses promote their company, right? To give them a reason to get on the camera and talk about their business. So
absolutely.
I find it so sad when people don't execute on that last piece. Like they got all the way here, right? They made all the content, and they just don't push it out.
Yeah, so, I'm not sure why someone would want to, even apply, because you have to apply, right? There's very few awards that are given just because you're sitting there doing a good job, and someone comes and goes, "Hey, I'm going to give you an award." So if you're applying, then there's an intent there. So for you to kind of not finish the process, which is including the marketing that you would do afterwards,
right?
It seems a little odd, that you wouldn't, why did you want the award? Unless you just wanted it for your own personnel and your own satisfaction and stuff like that. But it could do so much more.
Sometimes just having somebody else solidify what you're doing is right is a huge benefit for an entrepreneur sometimes as well, because sometimes we're scratching our heads going, why did I do this?
Right.
But anyway, that's a whole different story. Awesome. So ActivEngage, I like how you saw that gap in the market, executed on it, and to me, it's really special that you're giving small dealerships economies of scale. I think that is a really great thing because you're helping those small business owners. And I'm assuming, I don't know much about the car dealership business, right? It's one industry that I've done a little bit of research on used car dealerships, but never new car dealerships. I've never had a big interest in them. I'm imagining they're generally privately owned. A family?
It depends. I mean, some of the dealerships are huge. Some dealerships are gigantic, and there's lots of public companies. AutoNation's a public company.
Okay.
And a lot of them, there's a lot of them out there. Group One's public. There's a bunch of them that are public. So they manage them. The public ones, or at least the bigger groups. I think that some of the individual operators that are within those groups, they don't necessarily like having the oversight, above them, and having, run stores and been involved like that. I understand that perspective on it. Sometimes you see the nuance in the market and you want to be able to handle things a certain way, and they're like, nope, you're going to do it the same way as everybody else. And so, I understand what that is too. As a vendor to them, sometimes it's a little bit easier. They're more about effectiveness. They're more about statistics and are we doing things, are we being successful for them or not? Black and white. Are we doing a good job? If we're doing a good job and we're doing a better job than, a competitor or someone else who is in there, then terrific. You're doing a good job. You're good to go. If you're not, then, we either need to change what we're doing or we need to change you. And that's fair. I think that's fair. Some of the smaller dealerships, or individual dealerships in general are, pretty good size. The average dealership has about 100 employees. So and a lot of them have a lot more. When we first started, I had another company before this one, and a lot, probably the first 100 dealers were all customers of my other company, and there was trust there, and they believed just in, kind of the way we saw things and the way that I kind of did things and stuff like that. So I was lucky to have that relationship with them. So they kind of just trusted that what I was going to put in front of them was hopefully going to work. And it did, thank goodness. Otherwise we wouldn't be here today. But
you figured something else out.
And they, those were not these big companies and such, these were people of vision, that had individual dealerships, or they had 2 or 3 dealerships. And most of them earnestly were kind of exceptional at what they did, running these dealerships, and they were local and they were totally plugged into what they were doing and such. I think that, I think that it's not necessarily like a big or small version. We have some of the biggest dealerships, in the country on our services. And we certainly have, AutoNation's our customer, and they're the largest dealer group in the world. And, they can't do it more efficiently than we can, because this is the only thing that we do. That's the only thing that we do. And so our focus, our intent, our expertise, the way that we handle this, that's the only thing we're focused on. Dealerships are like little cities. They not only employ all these people, and we talked earlier a little bit. So, when you're buying a car, you're buying the car, you're buying a warranty, you're buying insurance, you're buying the financing for that vehicle. Maybe you're buying the service that's going to be ongoing for that vehicle, from them. You may be buying, whether or not it's going to have loaners and things like that. That's part of the dealership offering. So it is part of the car purchase process. And then there are divisions for all of this. So there's an F&I department. It's all just F&I. And you have sales department. That's just sales. And you have the service department. Well, service is, not only the service, the act of servicing the vehicle, but it's all the pieces and everything else and the different types of service that they have and making sure that they can get everything for you. There's the parts department. it's complicated, and there's
Right.
a lot of stuff to do there. And so there's a lot of stuff to focus on, and they're still trying to be efficient. So is adding, well, I know that sales and service are important to them, and certainly the way they communicate with their customer. And there's lots of customers who are coming into the dealership. Is this other avenue an area where they feel like they can have the expertise? If there's that many people out there that can focus on this and look at statistics and train on this and continually be effective, at having a team that can do this on an ongoing basis, and then hire, the people that can do it, understand if those are the right people who can do it, and on and on and on. I had one of the companies I had, I've had a lot of companies actually, starting like all the way back when I was like 13, but one of the companies that I had was an inventory maintenance company, and we would go out and essentially wash the cars at the dealership, right? And so dealerships have porters, they're called get ready guys, and they wash the cars and they clean them up and they get them ready for you and they take out the trash and they do kind of, more of the kind of menial operational stuff around the dealership, and they're essential, to the dealership. And so to some dealerships have 500, 600, 700, 1,000 cars on the lot. So how many people do you need to be able to go and wash every single car every single week? That's a lot of stuff to do while you're selling cars and they're detailing a car, or they're, applying the undercoating, or they're applying, the mask to the front, or whatever, the clear coat, something, whatever it is. So as I was doing I was selling the service of just going out and I could clean all the cars in a day myself. So that's how it started. It was a really stupid idea, because now I was outside in Florida in the summer washing cars, all day long and working really hard. But
that's a young man's game.
That's a young man's game for sure. But I grew that and ended up with a lot of people and, trucks on the road and doing stuff like that. And I saw that they had these porters that were at the dealerships. And I was talking to one of the dealers one time, and he said, these guys, they're very transient and it's hard to keep them. And, sometimes they damage stuff, or they just don't listen, or they don't show up, or whatever. And I had a team that was focused on this one other thing, which is what I was doing. And they were a great team. And I, had them, and I knew how to hire people and how to find them and how to get more. And I had a reputation at that point, and they made decent money and so on and so forth. So, it just gave me the idea. I was talking to that guy and I said, well, what if I just, what if you didn't have your own porters and you just leased them from me? So you pay me as a contractor, as a company, and I'll tell me how many guys you want, and I'll charge you a flat fee, and I'll give you the guys. And if you don't like a guy, then you just tell me I don't like the guy, and you have to hire another one. I'll just pull that guy and I'll bring you a new guy same day. Yeah. And so all my guys were trained for my stuff. And I had certain ones that wanted to, expand to do out these other things. And we had healthcare and other things like that. And I started leasing them to dealerships. And the dealerships, if they didn't like someone, then I would literally just go, yeah, no problem. And I'd drive over to the dealership and I'd pick up that guy and I'd drive him to another dealership, or drive him to wherever one of my trucks was. And I'd go, okay, you're here now.
Right.
You come with me. You're going to this dealership. And I just move a guy over to the dealership. And,
as an employer, if you can hire a company versus an employee, your risk is way lower across the board.
Yeah, your risk is lower. Your cost factor is typically lower. You're not paying for the overhead and other things, especially now, now that everybody's given health insurance and other things like that, right. Especially if you're in dealerships. So your liability is lower, your overhead, in general is lower. You don't have to worry about, they're not employees. So, they're a lot, even though most of the people at dealerships, they're A-type personalities, sometimes they have trouble, kind of dealing with, you're not doing what I want you to do. And I'm not really telling you that, but I don't like it. And I'm going to end up having to release you over that. Now you don't have to do that. You know what? Don't even worry about it. You don't like something that they're doing, either tell me and I'll fix it, or tell me and I'll remove the guy.
Right.
And that's it. So, I think that at that time, that was the right thing at that time. And it was a great service. And I think that generally, I've always kind of focused on things that are services for people, something that you can charge like an ongoing fee for, as opposed to having an individual product. It was, I think you and I were talking about your father a little bit, earlier, and one of the things that my father told me when I was young, but getting involved with business. I'm old, so Blockbuster was around. Didn't have anything comparable to that. So for anybody who's listening that they remember Blockbuster, what he loved about Blockbuster was, you bought the videotape once or the CD once, and they sold it, effectively at a discount, but over and over and over again until the thing was just beat to hell, and then get another one. And so he loved that format, and he was like, I just remember the conversation. He was like, that's the thing to do. You want to do something once that you can regurgitate over and over and over and over and over again. So that's software, right? So that itself is what software is. And to me, some of these other things, the leasing and even the managed services, effectively what we're doing is, I'm doing it once. I'm teaching everybody to do what they need to do, and we're doing it one time, and it's unilaterally available to everybody. And I'm not doing it for you and then figuring out another way to do it for you and figuring out another way to do it for you. I'm doing it once. And then I'm just, selling a license for you to access that product, whether it's the software or the managed service with the software. But my job is consistently the same, to supply that service. And so I think that, when you can find things in ways to do that, that was part of the process when you asked earlier to come up with, well, we found this niche, but we also like this niche because it was that feature, right? It wasn't sending a consultant into the store every 2 or 3 months to figure out what they were doing wrong and retrain them on what, that's a very customized thing that we have to produce each time. Whereas this we can produce, and we're producing it the same. Like you want to have a new customer, you're a new customer. Great. I'm going to produce this thing. You want to leave? I'm not going to stop producing this thing. That's fine. I'm just producing it for everybody else who's left. And anybody else who comes on, I'm producing it again. And in doing that, I'm also extracting what are the best ways to do it, and why did we lose this customer? Was there a rational reason why we lost them? What happened? Did we not communicate something the right way? Did we do something wrong? Did they just perceive that there was a problem that maybe we didn't identify? But perception is everything, so we want to make sure that we take care of that in the future. How do we get them back? That kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So.
I've had a blast talking to you. We're right at an hour now. We could probably just talk about business all day long. To wrap things up, if the dealer's out there watching and they're like, oh, I didn't even know this was an option for me, how would they get in contact with your company to start outsourcing that online chat?
So if there are dealers out there that don't know us and don't know how to get in touch with us, then we haven't done a very good job. That would be really upsetting to me. But just for that purpose, if there was a dealer out there, then ActivEngage.com. It's ActivEngage.com. So just the one E in the middle. And you can come to there, and you can fill out a form, and we'll contact you. You can certainly call. And you can call 321-441-7700, and you can get to our sales team, and we'll interact with you that way. You're certainly good to interact with me, and I'm happily if you want to talk to me, then I'm happy to talk to you, and you can get to me at ted.rubin, RUBIN, at ActivEngage.com.
Wonderful.
Anybody who wants to buy something, I'll sell it to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. Very much appreciated. Is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with before we leave?
No, I appreciate it all the time, and thank you for being here. I think, knowing your constituency, the one thing that I would say to prospective entrepreneurs that are, looking for motivation or something to do, it's, do something that, you really do something that's an assistance to the people that you're targeting. That's helpful, not just jazz, because that's going to make you feel good. That's going to make them feel good. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to live and die this stuff, and you're going to breathe it, and you're going to feel like you're underwater sometimes. And, I think one thing that saves entrepreneurs in a big way is feeling like they're contributing in some way. Because if you're just doing it only for the money, which a lot of people do, and that's fine. But if it goes south, dude, you're going to choke on it. So you got to feel like you're having an impact, because if you don't, then why are you doing this? So when things get bad, it's going to be really bad.
Absolutely.
I think
you have to have some joy. For me, I have to have a lot of joy in what I'm doing. And if I don't, then it's just too easy to quit. Like if you don't love what you're doing. And in this game, the world's going to give you plenty of reasons to walk away. And if you don't love it, then you will walk away.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ted. It was great having you, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.